And all right, welcome everyone. I am just going to quickly live stream this on Facebook. So bear with me 2 seconds while I get that set up. But welcome everyone. Thank you for joining in. I know for some people it's a little bit late. I know for some of you on East Coast time, one of the reasons why we picked a time that's typically a little bit later is just so we can make sure everyone has a chance to tune in. This is our weekly advance call. So let me get this stream set up. Mapping bypass retail high level. And let's go live. And we pull this screen over here so I can get the comments streaming in. What's going on, Josie? How you doing? George, this is being live streamed on my personal Facebook at the moment. Um, I'm going to set up Restream and we will be able to go live in the Pro Tools Facebook group as well as a couple others. But in the interim, I am going to stream and we will be able to kill the audio there so I can monitor the chat. And let's go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone. My name is Mario Aldayuz. I'm the head of partnerships here at HL Pro Tools, and I will be your coach today. So I appreciate everyone joining in. And what we're going to be talking about today is some different options with the N8n and HighLevel platform. So one of the things that we do every week on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific is we go over advanced topics. Those can be everything from working in HighLevel directly and doing some advanced workflows to building out in N8n, retail, bot press, VAPI, you name it. We are going to do our best to cover it. So today's specific segment, last week we did N8n setup. So we set up a cloud-hosted instance of N8n via DigitalOcean. And today, Ishmael has requested that we cover some topics on N8n and integrating HighLevel itself. So we will go ahead and without further ado, get started. So the first thing I'm going to do, and if you want to follow along with me, I will do my best to explain as I go along in the process, kind of what each step is for and how it works. But if you have questions, feel free to raise your hand using the hand React icon and let me know if you have any questions. And you can also drop those in the Zoom chat. Today's call and Tuesdays in general, a little bit less formal because it is a smaller audience. So if you do just want to unmute and ask a question, that's absolutely not a problem either. But the first thing we're going to do is we need to create a marketplace account. So in order to connect N8n to HighLevel, we need a couple things. We need N8n. We need a HighLevel account. We need our stoplight docs open. So let me drop those in the Zoom chat. Stoplight is the HighLevel API documentation. So let me drop that in the Facebook comments. So when you have different APIs, which are different tools that you can use inside of HighLevel, you can see here there's quite a few of them. So these are all the different things you can do within HighLevel using the API. The next thing we're going to need open is N8n itself. So let's go ahead and I will log into my instance of N8n and pull up my different example workflows. Now, I already have a HighLevel account connected to N8n. So what I'm going to do is create a new marketplace account. So the next thing we need to do is go to marketplace.gohighlevel.com. And we have two options. We can use what are called private integration tokens, or we can use native OAuth tokens. I prefer the OAuth method. And the reason for this is a lot of the scopes, which are the permissions that you provide N8n, only exist in the OAuth version. They don't exist in the private integrations tokens. And the other advantage to the OAuth is you can reuse OAuth and just sign into different accounts. And you can really easily just plug those keys in and add additional locations, as opposed to needing to generate a new private integrations token and all of that stuff. So for the context of today, we are going to be using our OAuth configuration as opposed to private integration tokens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new workflow. And this workflow is blank. I'm going to go ahead and name this workflow. Ishmael, kind of guide me through the specifics of what you wanted to accomplish. I believe it was setting up locations using N8n, correct?
Yeah, so setting up locations and then updating custom values
Okay.
I mean, I guess this is a given, but like creating a user inside of the sub account as well.
Okay, cool.
That's pretty much it.
Awesome. So we are going to assume that we get a form submission. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a webhook call. And I will bounce back and forth between these tabs. So we have the marketplace, which we're going to create in a second. But we also need a form to communicate to N8n, and then we're going to pin that data. So I'm going to set this to a post request. I'm going to name this webhook from HighLevel form. I'm going to go into HighLevel itself and go into a location. And I'm actually going to switch this to my demo account. And what we are going to do is we're going to go into sites and we're just going to create a simple form. So I'm going to add a form and call this just something generic. So we'll do form to create location. And I'm going to add, I'm just going to remove these terms and conditions because we don't need these, and create location. Now, you could realistically, make this a payment form. You could make this a number of different things. But what we need is an organization. So we need the name of the company. We need their address. So we are going to do the autocomplete and everything else. And we're going to make this mandatory. So we're going to make this required, all these different fields required. Now, this is not necessarily um, representative of what you would actually use. Like most of the use cases are going to be like someone checks out on a payment form or something like that. And you're going to want to set up, kind of whatever automation makes the most sense. So we are going to save that form, go back in here. We just need a quick automation. So the easiest way to communicate with N8n is going to be via webhook. So what we're going to do is create a webhook to create location and user. And then we're going to save this, go ahead and add a trigger, which is going to be form submitted. And we're going to call this create location and user. Add a filter because we don't want this to fire on every single form submission. That'd be bad, bad, bad. So we only want this to fire on specific forms that we select or checkouts, for example. The next thing we're going to do is create a webhook, and that webhook is going to be a post request to N8n. We're going to come back into N8n, and we're just going to grab this webhook test and put this right here. And then we are going to turn on that scenario. And then I'm just going to really quickly go back into sites, forms, and we need to submit that form. So we're going to do just search N8n or location. There we go. Form to create location. Open this in a preview. Now, whenever you are setting up N8n scenarios for the first time with your webhooks, one of the things you want to do is pin that data by submitting a test. So we are going to listen for a test event, and then we're going to submit that form. So this is going to pull down some details. We're going to select our country, which is United States. And we are going to hit create location, which that should work. So now we will go back in here and you'll see it pulled in a bunch of data. So what we want to do is pin this data like this. And then we can actually go in and go ahead and grab that production URL and go back into that automation. And we are going to replace this, which you'll notice it's literally just test with or without the dash test, and save this, publish this. So now we have that ready for production. Okay, so now we've pinned our data, which means that we can use this data in other parts of the scenario without having to resubmit that form over and over and over again, which is what you have to do in like Make and Zapier. So that's one of the biggest advantages to N8n is you can very easily leverage the pin data function. The next thing we need to do is go into creating a location. So we're going to search HighLevel and we're going to check what options are here. And you'll see that there is no option in here for creating a location. And when you want to create a location inside of N8n, we're going to need those stoplight documentation. What we're going to do is use an HTTP node. So the HTTP node is essentially just a API call. So we hit that post request, and we're going to need to set up some authentications and some URLs and a couple other things. And this is where we start getting into the nitty-gritty details of HighLevel specifically and their API. So if I were to come in here and go into locations, so I scroll down, and did I pass it? Users, also email, custom menu links. So locations has to be up here somewhere. We got marketplace, sub accounts, former locations. All right. So if I go in here and I want to create a sub account, this is only available on the 497 plan and above. So keep that in mind. This is one of the advantages to being on the 497 plan. I recommend everybody be on the 497 plan just because it does have a lot of advantages, especially when it comes to custom objects or being able to create locations, manage your locations, things like that. So this is the specific API call that we are going to use. Let me drop this in the Zoom chat so that everyone has access to it. And if we were to take this and put this into N8n and just drop in this URL and hit test step, it's going to say authorization failed. Please check your credentials, right? Because we need to authorize ourselves. So what we're going to do is go into, because HighLevel does exist as an N8n app, we are going to select predefined credential type. We're going to come down to HighLevel. which is a little bit down the list in the H's. So we're going to grab that HighLevel OAuth 2 API. Do not use the HighLevel API v1. That is being deprecated over time, and it will randomly error out. You always want to use the OAuth 2 API, which requires a client ID and a secret key and an app from the marketplace. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a new credential. And you can see here that we have a bunch of different options. And so this is where we need to have our handy dandy marketplace. And we are going to create an app. Now, in the case of most of how you guys are going to be using N8n, you are not going to create a public app. You're going to create a private app. And in this case, it is the distribution is agency, and we'll go ahead and check subaccount. But agency is the one you need for setting up the locations. Subaccount would be, for example, if you wanted to update custom values and things like that. Now, because as an agency user, I am installing this on behalf of my sub accounts, I don't use the white label recommended. I do select standard, and I am going to put in N8n demo app. And then what I'm going to do is create this application. Now, what it's going to do is it's going to present you with a bunch of options. You can actually ignore this first page. What you need to do is go directly into the advanced settings and click off. This is where we select our required scopes. So scopes are going to be where we pick what permissions we want to give N8n. And I always recommend scoping down as narrowly as possible because you don't ever want to give too many permissions to an application. For example, in the event that someone gains access to your N8n or something like that and wants to do something nefarious, you don't want them to be able to like go in and delete locations, for example. So what we would do is we'd pick locations write, and we'd pick locations read only. And we're going to go ahead and pick custom values, write and read only as well. Now you'll notice that this one is a sensitive scope. What that means is this has the ability to add locations to your agency account, and that's considered sensitive. We're also going to go ahead because Ishmael wanted to be able to create users. We're going to select the users scopes. And again, this gives you like one of the dangers of this is you can create agency admins using the user's right scope. So you want to make sure that obviously you're judicious with, who you give access to your credentials and all that stuff too. So I'm going to grab this OAuth redirect URL. This is what the app is going to send the traffic back to after it's been authenticated. So we need to set this up so it can receive the information. We're going to go ahead and add this as a redirect URL. We are going to save this. And the next part of what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a client key name. I'm going to go ahead and pause the Zoom share so I can grab those credentials really quick. And what this is going to do is obviously not give you guys the visibility into kind of what my keys are. So I'm going to call this N8n demo app credentials. I'm going to hit add, and that's going to give me a client secret and a client ID. So what I need to do is copy the client ID over into N8n. And then I need to copy that secret as well. And then this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So I'm going to resume my screen share because the client ID doesn't make a difference. You can't see the client secret, which is the important part. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and go into getting my scopes. The easiest way to do this is literally to drag the cursor and hit copy before unclicking your mouse. So you're going to control C across all of those scopes, come back into N8n and paste those right here. So what you need for this is going to be, we're just going to remove some extra spaces. So it is just one space in between each one of these. I have a bunch of apps that have, go ahead, Ishmael.
I'm sorry, I think I missed a step with the client ID. So it's where the agency APIs are generated, right? The maximum 5 that we get.
So it's going to be right here under client keys.
Yeah.
You're
So,
going to generate a client key.
oh, okay, got it. I see. Thanks.
Yep. And what we're going to do is save this. We're going to mark this as default. Save this again. Kind of annoying nudge nudge Karthik that you have to save it in order to select it as default. But we're going to go back into N8n and I'm going to call this olibot.ai demo location create credentials. And I'm going to save this. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to give me a connect my account. You do have to be logged into app.gohighlevel.com if you're using the standard auth procedure. If you're using the white label auth, you can be logged into your white label domain. So in this case, I'm going to hit connect my account and let's see what happens. So it says, please log into the CRM. So I am going to exit out of this, connect my account because I am technically already logged in. Oh, that would be why, because I have it selected up here as white label. So I want standard. So I'm going to hit connect my account. That authenticates me. It does tell me it requires permissions to create edit users. It hasn't been verified. It's got sensitive scopes, yada, yada, yada. I hit next. I install it on my agency level. And for this case specifically, I am only doing it for the agency level because I want to create locations using this agency level token. So I do not want to check these two boxes. I only want to check the no boxes and I hit proceed. Now it will say connection successful. What this has done is it's communicated back to api.olibot.ai or whatever your N8n URL is. And now I should be able to create locations and users by hitting this test step. Now, the next thing we want to do is under the create sub account formerly location, we have some example details in here that we're going to need to copy out. Some of the important components are this API version, for example. So we're going to copy this API version that goes in the headers. So we are going to set headers, call this version, and paste this. This will get you hung up every single time if you forget to do it. The version does change based on the API call. So sometimes it'll be 2021 0728. Sometimes it'll be a higher and a lower date. It really just depends. There's not a lot of consistency there. Ishmael, did you have another question?
Oh,
Okay. Oh, you're good.
sorry, I didn't know I was not muted.
Nope, you're fine. So the next part is we have our body, and the body of this is what this example request here is showing. And it's also what this example body over here is showing. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this entire body, and we're going to slim down what's in here. So this is the body. And in here, we need to select use JSON because if we try and use the using fields below, there are some nested objects and items that it won't work with. So we need to remove, we're not in this case placing a snapshot. We're not changing Twilio. And one thing you will learn is JSON is very specific about comma placements and how objects and arrays and key value pairs are nested. So make sure that you are putting in it through like a JSON linter or JSON prettifier, or you know how to read JSON. The next thing to look at is what's required. So in this case, name and company ID are required. Company is the agency ID, not the relationship ID. Agency ID slash company ID exists differently than uh, the relationship ID. So it looks like name and company ID are required. Uh, Prospect info is required, first name, last name, email. And we're just going to look through here and see what else is required. It says the Twilio credentials and the Mailgun credentials are required, but I don't believe that they actually are. So we are going to test that. So we're going to kill out this social content. We don't want this. We do want, and you'll see that little red X popped up when I had that extra comment in there saying that there's something wrong with my JSON formatting. So I don't want duplicate contact. I don't want duplicate opportunity. I do want the Facebook name merge. Sometimes I turn that on, sometimes I turn that off. And disable contact time zone. We can leave that off. What we do need are these values in here. We can technically remove website. We can remove time zone, I believe. Let's look. Time zone is not required, but I actually think it is. So this is where you're going to start having to run into some weird issues with HighLevel's API. It requires some extensive testing. Quick life hack is if you go to testing in the marketplace, you can spool up test accounts that are 497 plan demo accounts that don't have the ability to send communications, but you can test your API and your applications using those test accounts. So what I'm going to do now is I am going to go in and I need to find my company ID, which is if I go in here and I go to agency settings, I go to company, I have my relationship number, but I don't see company ID. I go under settings. I don't see company ID. Not gonna remember where to get it. I know how to get it the roundabout way. So let's look in the stoplight docs and see what we have in terms of company, or agency. So sometimes this requires a little bit of getting creative. Ishmael, have you gotten to this point yet where you have to find the company ID?
Uh, I don't remember. I used the old version of the API. So I didn't do the auth 2 because I actually missed that. Actually, ChatGPT missed that, and it didn't tell
Gotcha.
me that part. So yeah, so this might be new to me. I don't remember if I did get the company ID. I probably did though, because I do remember having to search through some documentation, and I did somehow get
Yeah,
it.
so the hacky way to do it is to just right click inspect and then you can grab the company ID this way. Um, which I will just really quickly grab that company ID. So come on. This is called a view. And this I'm inspecting the view object, and I can share with you guys how. Come on, copy string contents. There we go. And so I will paste this into here under company ID, and let's call this create location. And what we've done now is we've specified. So let's just check our JSON payload. We've specified the name of the account. I'm going to change this to demo account via N8n. We can ignore all of the extraneous information and John Doe stuff because this isn't a real account. But I would hit test step. And just as I suspected, contrary to the API documentation, the Twilio and Mailgun credentials are no longer required. So keep that in mind. Let's go
Yeah.
back down. What's
The
up?
V1 was necessary. I wasn't able to post anything to it until I got the Twilio enabled or disabled or something like that. Yeah, so FYI.
Yep. So in this case, though, because we're using V2, the documentation has changed quite a bit. Um, it's probably just a carryover from uh the original documentation that just needs to be updated. I know that HighLevel right now is working on bringing on an API manager, and they're going to be responsible for like updating all the documentation and making sure everything's streamlined and all the APIs match, et cetera, et cetera. So what we are going to do now is we have successfully gone and grabbed a webhook from HighLevel to create a location, but now we need to map the data from the form. So we confirmed it worked. You can delete that location. And this is why I recommend like using a marketplace testing account for your API construction. And then once you have a working app and configuration in N8n, then publish it to your actual account, unless you're fine with deleting it like I am. So I am going to go in and grab that company name. So I'm going to delete this section right here. And in between the quotes, I would paste in or drag in the merge fields for that API request. And you would essentially want all of them to turn green, and then you would drag them all from the side over here under body into their relevant components. So like this phone, I would come in here and I would go to phone, which is somewhere up here, and I would drag this right here. Company ID, we're going to leave alone because this is our agency ID. Address and everything else we would change out. So this is what it's going to look like ultimately when you are done. So drop in the address. We're going to drop in the city. We're going to drop in the state. Now, the country code is 2 characters. It is also 2 characters in the form. So you have to make sure that the country code is 2 characters when you paste it. If you have like a custom form, you do need to have the country code present. So we are going to paste in the postal code, drag that over here, the website, drag that from over here, which I don't think I put in website, which is not a big deal. We can leave that blank or remove it. We're going to drag in the time zone. So come over here to time zone, drag this in. It is the IANA format time zone. So that's going to be like America/New York. It's not EST, PDT, EDT, etc. It is the actual full time zone name. So you'll want to have a time zone selection or let the form automatically determine their time zone. Most people, they're going to get hung up on the time zone submission. So what I recommend doing is letting the form just naturally pick up their time zone based on IP address. The prospect info, we are going to swap out the information. So we are going to grab the prospect's first name, prospect's last name, and lastly, the email address. And you can see here that everything is all green. And in my right-hand pane, I have all of the variables after they've been swapped out. So this is what's actually getting communicated from the N8n server over into HighLevel. So if I were to create a location using this, it would populate all of that data. But because I've already created a location, I'm just going to go ahead and pin what I've already created. And the next thing we're going to do is create a user. So we need another HTTP node. And we are going to create another post request. And we're going to call this create user. Go back into Stoplight and look up the users API. So under the users API, right down here, we can create a user. Now, this will error out if the user's email address already exists in your system. So the right way to do this would be to get the user to check if the user exists first, or if it fails to create it, continue the scenario anyways and route it through a if-else module that creates the user if it or updates the user to the location if it fails, or creates a new user if it's successful. If that does that make sense, Ishmael?
Yeah, the APIs that I was using before didn't have something similar to this, so I was trying to do it like with a separate process, and so I had to run code and stuff like that. So these functions are different, so I'm excited to see what I could do actually do. So that does make sense. I had a question about the creating the new location that I ran into the old API, and I wanted to just double check with you is
Sure.
what I noticed is that the Twilio or the phone was not connected to LC. So I created the account and but I had to go into the phone section inside of the agency and link or turn on LC phone under that sub account. So I'm pretty sure it's just because it's an outdated API, but I just want to confirm with that.
So let's take a look under demo account N8n. It's automatically provisioned as LC phone.
Sweet. Awesome. Okay.
Yep. So you're good to go there. The next thing we're going to do is go to create that user. So we are going to create a user using this users API. Go into N8n, paste this, select our authentication. We've got a predefined credential type, which is HighLevel. So we'll come down here, go to HighLevel OAuth 2 API, select the demo location create, and we are going to rename this. And now we would take a look at the stoplight documentation and see exactly what it needs, which you need to pass in your location ID and you need to pass in your company ID. So again, what I would do is come back up here to this body, and I would copy in this body. And you do have to be cautious with this because it's not always accurate. So just use your common sense when it comes to errors. It will tell you why the errors are happening. So in here, what I want is this location ID. I'm only going to add it to one location ID, which is this ID right here. So I'm going to drag this over here, and you have to come down and grab this and then put it back up in the locations box. And I'm going to open this up, and the company ID, again, we're going to bring in here john@deo.com. I'm actually going to use a dummy email address, which is Mario plus demo N8n at olibot.ai. You can put in whatever fictitious password you want. I don't think password is, it says password's required. So I want to try it without a password really quick. So I'm just going to Control X this. And I am going to put in my real phone number. And this is an account admin associated with this location ID. Again, you could create agency users this way. The N8n user creation flow is ideal for mass creating users off of a Google Sheet or a variety of other ways. It's much more efficient than manually creating them one by one in the team or my staff section. So we're just going to check all these permissions, which in this case, they're basically irrelevant. Scopes, context right, campaigns, read only. Scopes in this case. These are new functions. I would have to look at specifically what scopes it's talking about. And one of the ways that you can do this is to literally just create a user and go and try being that user and see what's enabled versus disabled. So in scopes under, if I go into like my demo account, for example, and I go into my staff, I think I have a user in here. I do. And if I go into here, you have a bunch of roles and permissions. These are scopes. So this is going to be where you can very granularly set up different functionality for the user. So you would want to make sure that you have the appropriate permissions. Obviously, if they are a if they are a agency admin, they're going to have all the scopes. If they're not an agency admin, you just need to scope it down. One of the cool things is you can literally just drag and drop this and put this in a text editor, do some wizardry with your find and replace, and out spits a array full of scopes. In this case, we are just going to go with the scopes that are in there currently. You would basically just add them as a comma separated list that is encapsulated in quotations. So you'd pick your specific scopes. And then what we would do is we would swap out all this information, demo, user, and you would drag in the fields from the webhook over into here. And then when you hit, we do need adding the version header. So we're going to put in version. I almost forgot. So we are going to put in the version header. And let's hit test step. And there you go. We created a user. So I'm going to go ahead and pin this data so I don't rerun it. But basically what would happen is if I fired that webhook again to the production URL, it would receive the webhook, create a location, create the user, and the next step would be to do the custom values. And you would want to create a survey and map the custom values to the survey fields so that when you create the location, that it takes the survey information and applies those to custom values. Does that make sense, Ishmael?
Yeah, it does. The thing that I ran into, again, it's probably because of the API, is just searching for the custom values that I need to update. So like the customer value ID. How do I search for that in the best in like the best case?
Yeah, so what you're going to do is you're going to go into custom values over here. And so let's find custom values. Business calendars, campaigns, companies, contacts, objects, associations, custom fields, conversations, courses, emails, forms, invoices, Twitter links, sub accounts, custom values. And you are going to get the custom values for that specific location ID. And then what you want is, this is a trick that Scott Helliker taught me, is that in your survey, the custom field name should match exactly what the name of the custom value is. And then you can map them together using N8n. So you're not using the IDs. What you're doing is you're getting all the custom values. You're taking that survey submission that has the custom field names identical to the custom value names. Now you can change it in the survey or the form, when you put the field in there, it allows you to change the name, but that doesn't change the actual name of the custom field in the system. Does that make sense? And then what you would do is you would just map the two together using a mapping function, which is just dot map on the custom value on the input. And you would just you would find the name and map it to the name, which is going to make sure that it updates all of them in the correct corresponding order.
Okay. Okay, I would have to dive into it to actually like have a really good understanding of it, but I love the direction that took. I would never thought about that. That's cool.
Yep. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the very basics of, and I'm just going to name this because I'm a stickler about naming, create demo location, and HighLevel. That is the nuts and bolts of creating an N8n scenario that creates a location and creates a user. So I will just grab this screenshot really quick and drop this in the Facebook chat. This is what your scenario should look like. So this is what we covered today. And it won't let me paste the image for some reason. So any questions from the crew? Going once, going twice. Awesome. So next week, what we're going to do is we can cover some different topics around N8n and HighLevel. We can cover bot press. We can break into new technologies. We can work on the AI implementation. Like, there's a ton of stuff you can do with these AI nodes in N8n that you can then manipulate data and create like blog posts and create RSS feeds. Like, there's tons and tons and tons of stuff that we can do with N8n. So drop in the Zoom chat or the Facebook chat and let me know what kind of topics are you interested in learning about. Any takers? Ishmael, what kind of topics are you interested in learning about? Titus, what about you?
Um,
Hey Mario. Yeah, no, I'm quite interested in the voice AI stuff and more advanced applications of it, particularly doing things like recording calls and using them for training purposes. Not just necessarily for AI, but also just generally recording everything in all the calls that a client makes and then providing a feedback loop of training information specific for them. So I figured I'd try and give that a go on it. It's on my list of things to do with N8n, with AI, sort of taking the feed of the voice transcript and then feeding it back. So I'd be really interested in seeing something about that.
Yeah, we can definitely do that next week. Yeah, we can definitely. So let's plan on for it, because that's not going to take the whole hour. It's really just a webhook into N8n, download the recording, feed it to Whisper, and then output the information. So next week, let's plan on doing half the segment on feeding transcripts, and then we can do a basic VAPI setup from there.
Awesome. That sounds cool.
Cool. We got a plan. All right, ladies and
Question,
gentlemen.
Mario, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. What's up?
Yeah. Oh, did you have a recording from the DigitalOcean setup from last week?
I do. It should be on my YouTube.
It's on your YouTube, is it? Okay. Right, thanks.
Yep. Excellent. And yeah, so these Tuesday evening calls are driven by what everyone wants to learn. So be sure to come prepared with questions. It is a advanced and power user session, but you don't have to be an advanced or power user to join. If you have questions while I'm going through things, or you want clarification on specific terminologies, I highly encourage you to join in, and would absolutely be happy to explain as in detail as needed to get everyone up to speed. We will make power users and advanced users out of all of you yet. But with that said, on tomorrow we are doing our GHL and HLPT updates, and then and that's at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then Thursday is our snapshot call at 9 a.m. Eastern. And Fridays is our SaaS and business coaching. That's going to be right after our build with Nuno calls. So we will do a build with Nuno and then immediately roll into SaaS and business coaching with a speaker feature. So be sure to check in at 4 p.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern. We actually have a call at 3, 4, and 5 on Fridays. 3 p.m. Eastern is with Andy Audate. That is sales and business coaching. It is open to everybody. So I highly recommend, if you're not part of the Pro Tools clan yet, go ahead and get signed up. Always, you can visit my link tree, which I will drop in the Zoom chat if you have questions. On my link tree, you will find links to all of my coachings, as well as YouTube and everything else. So feel free to check those out and let me know if you guys have any questions. One of the things that we had a suggestion from the Facebook community is learning about vector databases. So let's plan for probably not this coming Tuesday. I don't think we're going to have time, but maybe the Tuesday after that, we will dive into vector databases and all things math related to AI. So it's actually a super interesting topic. It's amazing what you can do with vector databases. So anyways, guys, thank you so much. I appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday night. I will see you guys tomorrow.